So students from Ballakermeen High School are working with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority this week. And what they're doing is developing consumer guidance on initial coin offerings and cryptocurrency. I'm going to be honest, when I got this email from the authority's Claire Whitelegg, who's a senior manager in the Banking Funds and Investments Division, my eyes did glaze over slightly. But Claire, these students are all in their first year of doing their A-levels, and it's really, really significant and important work that they're doing. First of all, how did it come about?
Well, originally, I was approached by one of the students who I've been involved in doing some teaching with Ballakermeen for a finance course. And one of the students on that approached me about coming to do some work experience. And I thought, well, work experience can be quite boring because often we can't give people things that are really interesting to do. So if we got a group of them together, they could actually do a project. And one of the things that we've been looking at doing is some guidance for people about what is an initial coin offering in crypto, what are the risks of doing it, what are the good benefits, and how do you avoid being scammed. And as it's very topical for certainly the younger generation in particular, we thought actually who's better to write it than students. So we invited them to come in, and 6 of them jumped at the chance and have given up. They could have been going to exit strategy and having fun days out, but they've come to us and they're working very hard, I have to say, on pulling it together. And we've got Joseph, Lee, Marianne, Kira, Ruth and Lee who agreed to join us.
Wonderful. Well, they are all here now. So we've got Lee, let's start with you first of all. And I'm really hoping that you're going to be able to answer the fundamental question that I have, which is, what are cryptocurrencies?
Well, cryptocurrency, it's basically a digital and virtual currency which acts as a medium of exchange. But what I didn't get when I started was, you think of cryptocurrency, you think of Bitcoin, right? But there's hundreds of other cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin. To give you an example, there's one called Dogecoin, which, you might think it sounds really weird, but it's actually a thing. There's also Ethereum, which is founded in Switzerland. So it's not just Bitcoin when you think of cryptocurrency. There's actually a ton of other cryptocurrencies that fall into that category. And
why do we need them then?
Well, it takes out the middleman in transactions. So there's no intermediary agent because it's all done online. So it's peer-to-peer. So you basically don't need to, the middleman don't take a cut.
Okay, ignorant question. Is it real money?
Yeah, well, actually has a value based on normal money. So yeah, when you think about it, it is. But it isn't physical money, as in you can actually hold one. You can't actually get a Bitcoin and go to the pub and say, oh, can I buy a pint with this?
And I think it's also fair to say, unlike real currency, there isn't a central bank who's backing it. So there's not Bank of England standing behind it. It's based on trust of everybody who's in the network that actually it is worth what it's worth.
Okay, we're going to let that sink in, and I'm just going to tell you that now it is time for a choice of listening here on Manx Radio. So to stay with our regular daytime programmes, you should be listening to our FM network, or to listen to continued coverage of this month's sitting of Tynwald, just go to the AM player at manxradio.com and on our smartphone apps, or you can tune to AM 1368, and that's where we can now rejoin Tim Glover in our Tynwald studio for the afternoon session of today's sitting. Okay, so we've got the initial thing, Christy. We kind of understand a little bit more about cryptocurrency now, yeah?
Sort of.
Okay, you can't, basically, Christy, you can't go to the pub and buy a pint with it.
No, we can't.
Just remember that.
Well, actually, on that, you could. The Thirsty Pigeon was, I think, the first pub that would accept Bitcoin. Now, whether they've ever done a transaction in Bitcoin, I don't know, but the Thirsty Pigeon did advertise that they would do it.
But that's an interesting point, because there was talk not too long ago about the Isle of Man being a Bitcoin island, wasn't there? So has that actually been developed any further?
I suppose it depends. It depends if you're using it commercially in shops. It's a bit different to using it over the net. So I don't know really. That would be more for the Department of Enterprise to answer. But theoretically, people can use it, but you've got to have somebody at the other end who's willing to accept it.
Okay. I think it's starting to make sense a little bit. Okay, Marie, lovely to have you on the show with us this afternoon. And I mentioned in the introduction an ICO. What is that?
Well, it stands for Initial Coin Offering, and it's basically just a way to raise funds by selling a new type of cryptocurrency or a token in exchange for other cryptocurrencies. They're like IPOs, but the main difference is that you don't have any equity in the company, and they're completely unregulated. So basically, if they say they are regulated, then they're just lying.
Okay, I'm just going to point out how amazing you were there, because I completely directed that question at the wrong person. So that's how well they understand everything. That's absolutely brilliant.
I know, they're blowing my mind, they really are. Unregulated, so does that mean that they're not safe then? Kyla, do you think they're safe?
It depends on like what company is advertising. Like some are safe, but it's kind of hard to tell which are the safe ones. There's not much legislation in place or regulation or anything, because they are so new and so modern and stuff. But it's kind of hard to tell which ones to invest in and which ones not to.
Just with ICOs, 80% of them are actually the wrong type of ones you don't want to invest in. But 70% of the money which is invested into ICOs are invested into the right kind. So people do actually, they are actually being used in a positive way, but you just need to make sure you look out for the ones, that are trying to take your money.
So I'm just really curious as to why you all wanted to get involved in this project. Lee, what was it that made you think, actually, I want to find out more about this, I want to sort of produce this guidance that I know Claire was talking about?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know much about it when I started off, so I thought it would be a good way to actually, because, you've seen it all over the news, like Bitcoin, and it was like $20,000 and now it's fallen, so you want to know why that actually happened. And it's all based on people's actual belief in the currency that it'll actually be valuable that did that. But in terms of like a wider cryptocurrency, it's just so relevant at the moment, you know what I mean? So if you actually understand it, you feel like, especially with businesses and stuff, like applying that into the future, if you actually know what you're talking about when it comes to cryptocurrencies, it's an advantage in terms of future employment as well. So.
And Kyla, what have you been doing over the past few days then?
We've been researching a lot around the topic because we didn't come in with much. Claire put together a package for us, but a lot of us just kind of glazed over again. So we were just like, right, we wanted to like group together ideas, like how we were going to plan it, who had strengths and weaknesses in what areas, and like delegated each task.
And if I could just add to that, when they turned up, I mean, this is their project, and whilst we've got an interest in it, we want them to do the project and own it. So we haven't been sat there telling them what to write or telling them what to look at. Well, we've pointed them in a couple of directions of what to look at, but other than that, the guys have planned it themselves and have organised the teams, and we just pop in occasionally and go, anyone need anything? And we're normally told to go away. So they have been working very independently on it, and it's very much their own work.
And, we talked about the safety aspect, the regulation, the trust aspects. Marie, this is something that could be open to scams, though, isn't it? How can you sort of be aware of scams, and what do you need to look out for?
Well, there are quite a few red flags that you could look out for. Like first of all, like poor spelling and grammar. Like if it's just one typo, then it's not really a big deal. But if there's a lot, then it's likely to be a scam. If they like have countdowns, like putting pressure on you to like buy it now, and it doesn't really have like a real time frame, then that's another red flag. Also, be careful if it says they guarantee like high returns, like over 1% or something like that, because that's highly unrealistic. Also, their co-founders and team members could also be like made up people, so do some information on them, like check for their media presence and all that. Basically, if it just sounds too good to be true, then it probably is.
Oh, that's a great message, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I'm still wondering though, so Kyla, do you think then that in the not too distant future, because I remember years ago when PayPal started operating and people were saying, oh, no one's really going to use online payments and no one's ever going to really trust them. We're talking about this still now in very sort of early days. Is this going to end up being the way that people actually execute transactions in the not too distant future, do you think?
I think it is a tough question because countries that are so big like China and South Korea have like put a complete ban on them altogether, but then other countries are quite lenient towards them, so like Switzerland are quite relaxed with them. We don't have much legislation in place, so I think it could be, if there is someone operating it, like not a central bank but in some form of way, I think it could go very far.
Yeah, if I can just jump in there, because this is something the kids won't be aware of, but at the authority, one of the things I do is I'm on a regulatory group, which is an international one, which is the ICO network. And what it is regulators internationally, with a lot of at the SEC and Hong Kong and Singapore and the UK are particularly active, are looking at how does this new thing fit into the regulatory structure and how can we protect people. One of the big things is deciding, because it's not an investment, so they won't be protected by investment legislation at the moment. In our jurisdiction, in some jurisdictions they would. So how do you protect people without killing off what is a good thing? Because we think the blockchain is a really good thing, and that's the thing that underpins all of this, is the blockchain, which it will underpin the ICOs and the cryptocurrencies. And if anyone's got any interest in looking at a scam, just picking up on Marie's point, I would recommend them going to a website called howeycoins.com, so HOWEY coins.com. You go onto there and it's making all sorts of promises, and you click through, and it's actually the US Securities and Exchange Commission have set this up, and it says if you had actually clicked and this was a real ICO, you would just have been scammed, because these are the things that you need to look out for. So in this case, it was promising high returns. If you put your money in really quickly, you'd get extra tokens issued, and all this, lots of high pressure, do it now stuff. And it went through and explained all of the risks behind it, and it's been absolutely brilliant. So I think a lot of this is about educating people so they know what it is. And we're not saying they're a bad thing, but they're a new thing, and people need to understand the risks.
Okay, this is all absolutely fascinating. I'm so impressed with how well you've all explained it and the work that you've been doing this week. Where can people find this guidance that's being produced, Claire?
Okay, well, when it's produced, we will be putting it up on the consumer area of our website, which is iomfsa.im. We'll also, obviously, we'll try and sort of get it out on Facebook, and we will send out a press release when it comes. So hopefully you guys will be able to pop something up as well. But based on the work the girls have done so far, the girls and the boys, sorry guys, have done so far, we are really pleased with the quality of the work. So much so I showed our some of the guys internally who actually deal with ICOs, because we don't regulate them, but some of the exchanges are registered, and they looked at it and one of them went, I've learnt something. So I think if our guys have learnt something, this is cool.
I've got to ask then, since we are talking about the fact that, you as young people can explain this better, how have your friends taken to it? Have you been able to convince any of them that they should look more into Bitcoin?
Not at all. They just kind of they're just used to me waffling on about finance and how interesting it is, and okay, that's just another thing. And I was like, no, this is cool. And then they're getting there, but not at the minute.
Oh, it's like me and Christy. I'm all finance, and she's just like, oh, shut up, Beth, aren't you? Hey? Thank you so much to all of you, and to the others who are sitting on the sofa. Can say hello. Oh, they didn't say anything.